Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi en route to the Netherlands after a high-impact visit to the UAE. India and the UAE sign agreements on LPG supply, petroleum reserves, defence, ship repair and investment. BRICS ministers debate global governance reforms on day 2 of their meeting in Delhi. Iran's foreign minister Aragchi tells DD India the Strait of Hormuz is open for friendly countries. In a signal to possible agreement, Trump says he'll accept Iran freezing its nuclear program for 20 years with a real commitment. Trump ends his Beijing visit. Xi Jinping calls it constructive and strategic, pointing to a new phase in US-China ties. Well, let's begin with news from the United Arab Emirates. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Abu Dhabi has marked a major boost in India-UAE relations, with both countries signing key agreements in defence, energy and infrastructure. The visit, the first stop of the Prime Minister's five-nation tour, highlighted the growing strategic importance of the partnership amid global geopolitical and energy challenges. From long-term LPG supplies to a new defence framework agreement, the outcomes are expected to strengthen India's energy security and economic growth. Here's more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's brief but high-impact visit to Abu Dhabi on Friday has delivered substantial gains for India-UAE ties, underscoring the deepening strategic partnership amid global energy challenges. This marks the first leg of PM Modi's 6-day, 5-nation tour from May 15th to 20th, which also includes the Netherlands, Sweden, Norway and Italy, with a strong focus on energy security, trade, technology and defence cooperation. Upon entering UAE airspace, PM Modi's aircraft was escorted by UAE F-16 fighter jets, reflecting the warmth and strategic importance of the visit. He received a warm reception and guard of honour in Abu Dhabi before holding substantive delegation-level talks with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The leaders signed a landmark framework for strategic defence partnership, an MOU on strategic petroleum reserves, a long-term agreement for LPG supplies, and an MOU for establishing a ship repair cluster at Vadinar in Gujarat. Investments worth $5 billion were also announced in Indian infrastructure, RBL Bank, and Samman Capital. These pacts aim to deepen cooperation in defence industrial collaboration, advanced technologies, counter-terrorism, energy security, and economic development. The visit builds on the momentum for UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan's official visit to India in January 2026, during which a letter of intent for the strategic defence partnership was signed, elevating ties in trade, investment, AI, and renewable energy. PM Modi underlined the ever-growing cooperation between the two nations and said that the current situation, the importance of strategic cooperation has vastly increased. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit reflects the warmth and priority both nations attach to the relationship. Officials described the meetings as highly productive, covering bilateral, regional and international issues. The outcomes are expected to enhance India's energy resilience, defense capabilities, and economic growth while further elevating people-to-people and commercial ties. With inputs from Siddharth Bharadwaj from Abu Dhabi, Antara Sinha for DD India.
During his visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also held talks with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, during which the two leaders discussed key issues of mutual importance. Prime Minister Modi extended his heartfelt gratitude to UAE President for taking comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries to new heights. Take a listen.
Your Highness, my dear brother, इस आत्मीय स्वागत के लिए मैं आपका हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। और जैसा आपने कहा, मैं अपने दूसरे घर आया हूं। ये शब्द, ये भाव मेरे जीवन की बहुत बड़ी पूंजी है। आज भी जिस प्रकार से आपकी वायुसेना के जहाजों ने एस्कॉर्ट किया, ये भारत के लोगों का सम्मान है। आपने पिछले दिनों प्राकृतिक आपदा के कारण कुछ इलाकों में जो परेशानियां आई, उन पीड़ित परिवारों के लिए संवेदना व्यक्त की। इसके लिए भी मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूं। ब्रदर, पिछले कुछ समय से आपसे फोन पर तो बात होती रहती थी, परंतु मैं स्वयं आपसे मिलने के लिए बहुत ही बेताब था, आतुर था। पता क्यों, लेकिन मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था कि मुझे जितना हो सके उतना जल्दी आपके पास आना चाहिए, आपको मिलना चाहिए। आज आपसे मिलकर के मुझे सचमुच बहुत खुशी हुई है। ब्रदर, जैसा मैंने आपको पहले भी कहा है, यूएई पर हुए हमलों की हम कठोर निंदा करते हैं। यूएई को जिस तरह निशाना बनाया गया है, ये किसी भी रूप में स्वीकार्य नहीं है। ब्रदर, इन कठिन परिस्थितियों में आपने जिस संयम, करेज और विजन का परिचय दिखाया है, यह बहुत ही सराहनीय है। राष्ट्रीय एकता, सुरक्षा और क्षेत्रीय अखंडता को बनाए रखने आपके नेतृत्व में उठाए गए कदमों का हम अभिनंदन करते हैं। कठिन समय यूएई में रहने वाले भारतीय समुदाय की चिंता करने और उनकी देखभाल की, जिस प्रकार से आपने उसको अपने परिवार के सदस्यों पर संभाला है, मेरी सरकार का, आपका, रॉयल फैमिली का हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। ब्रदर, पश्चिम एशिया क्षेत्र में युद्ध की परिस्थिति का प्रभाव आज पूरे विश्व पर दिखाई दे रहा है। भारत ने हमेशा समस्याओं के समाधान के लिए डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी को प्राथमिकता दी है। हॉर्मुज़ को फ्री, ओपन और सेफ बनाए रखना, ये हमारी सबसे बड़ी प्राथमिकता है। इस विषय में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कानूनों का पालन आवश्यक है। ब्रदर, भारत हर परिस्थिति में यूएई के साथ कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर खड़ा है और आगे भी खड़ा रहेगा। जल्द से जल्द शांति और स्थिरता की बहाली के लिए भारत हर संभव सहयोग देने के लिए तैयार है। ब्रदर, हमारी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप को निरंतर नई ऊंचाइयों तक पहुंचाने के लिए मैं आपका हृदय से बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन करता हूं। जनवरी में आपकी भारत यात्रा के दौरान हमने आपसी सहयोग को क्वालिटेटिवली अपग्रेड करने पर सहमति जताई। इतने कम समय में भी हमने सभी विषयों में उल्लेखनीय प्रगति की। दोनों देशों के बीच भी करीबी संपर्क रहा। आज जिस तरह की परिस्थिति है, इसमें भारत और यूएई की स्ट्रेटेजिक साझेदारी, इसका महत्व कई गुना बढ़ गया। हम आने वाले समय में हर क्षेत्र में साथ मिलकर के आगे बढ़ते रहेंगे। एक बार फिर आपके आत्मीयता भरे स्वागत और गहरी मित्रता के लिए मैं हृदय से आपका बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं।
Updates now on the forthcoming India-Africa Forum Summit. Ahead of the India-Africa Forum Summit, diplomats and industry leaders praised the deepening ties between India and African nations, highlighting growing cooperation in trade, diplomacy, development and youth empowerment, while expressing optimism about a stronger and more connected future partnership.
India-Africa relationship is not new, it is very old, but the government initiative, this government which is taking is very good in a way that I'm already working in multiple countries in Africa. But such initiative, because you get a single forum wherein you can connect with different head of the embassies, etc. at one place. Second, the Indian government nowadays is very candid. They are ready to support. Supporting one is the need aspect. But second, India government is also thinking about giving support on the development of youth of the country. Really thankful to the government of India.
With India as Africa, that we look forward to great future together in our relationship, economic, social, diplomatic, definitely.
Being basically a country like India, we are always supporting Africa. So this, with respect to the Africa, a lot of scope has been generated, and those scopes has been now started actualizing also. So definitely in these few years, we have seen a tremendous changes as well, tremendous improvement in the trade.
And as New Delhi hosted the BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting, delegates shared views on global and regional issues of mutual interest. On the second day of the meeting today, the BRICS member and partner countries participated in a session on the reforms of global governance and multilateral systems. So this meeting is themed BRICS at 20, building for resilience, innovation, cooperation and sustainability. On the sidelines of the BRICS summit, the External Affairs Minister Jaishankar held a series of bilateral meetings with leaders from Iran, Malaysia, Uganda and Cuba, among others, focusing on strengthening diplomatic ties, boosting cooperation and discussing key regional and global developments. In an exclusive conversation with DD India, the Foreign Minister of Iran, Abbas Aragchi, complimented India for their leadership at BRICS, and he also spoke on the West Asia conflict. The minister said that Iran is a victim of aggression and that the Strait of Hormuz is open for friendly countries. Let's listen.
We are at the BRICS Foreign Ministers meet in New Delhi. I have with me the Foreign Minister of Iran, Mr. Abbas Aragchi. Welcome to DD India, sir. First, your key takeaways of the BRICS congregation meeting so far.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I have to appreciate the Indian government for very warm hospitality extended to me and my delegation and to all delegations. And also for the very good and excellent arrangements for this ministerial meeting of BRICS and for the success of this meeting. I think it was one of the best, ministerial foreign ministers meeting of BRICS. We had several meetings and we discussed about different important topics which are related to BRICS purposes and principles. And I had the opportunity to express the position of my country, Islamic Republic of Iran, especially after this war of aggression which was imposed on us by the United States and Israel. And we very much appreciate the BRICS position in condemnation of that aggression, which is against the basic principles of international law and the United Nations Charter.
So we saw how the conflict in West Asia dominated the discussions at the BRICS meeting. What is the road ahead, if you can give us a sense of that?
Well, the road ahead for BRICS is to continue working on its principles and the road that we have started to go together. And for the West Asia, I think the best way is to go for diplomacy. There is no military solution. And I think the United States should understand the point. They have tested us at least twice, and they have come to the point that there is no military solution. They cannot achieve any of their goals through diplomacy, through military. But if they try diplomacy, that is something else. We have already started engaging, but there are lots of problems in the way. The most important problem is the contradictory messages we receive from Americans through their comments and interviews and whatever.
And sir, just one final question. The disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz is creating a lot of pressure in global supply chains, energy supply chains, including for French.
Well, we'll get back to that interview a little later, but let's take you live now to the Ministry of External Affairs, a special briefing on the BRICS Summit.
Economic Relations in the Ministry of External Affairs. We also have on the dais Sri Shambhu Haki, Joint Secretary Multilateral Economic Relations in the Ministry of External Affairs. I would request Secretary ER to make his opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Vasu, and good afternoon, everyone. As all of you know, the BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting under India's chairship was held from 14 to 15 May at Bharat Mandapam, with the participation of foreign ministers and heads of delegations of BRIC members and partner countries. Prior to the foreign ministers meeting, BRICS Sherpa also met from 11 to 13 May to prepare for the foreign ministers meeting. The BRICS members and partner countries, ministers and heads of delegation had the opportunity to call on Honorable Prime Minister yesterday. There were also a number of bilateral engagements among the ministers as well during the course of 2-day-long foreign ministers meeting. EAM hosted a dinner for the visiting ministers and delegations where they were also given a glimpse of Indian culture. During the course of 2-day foreign ministers meeting, discussion took place around 3 broader themes: global and regional matters, reform of global governance and multilateral system, and BRICS at 20 under the theme Building for Resilience, Innovation, Cooperation and Sustainability. These 3 sessions allowed members to exchange views and share perspectives on main pillars of BRICS strategic partnership, political and security, economic and financial, and cultural and people-to-people relations. The session on the theme BRICS at 20 allowed members to reflect on the evolution of the grouping in the last 2 decades and its growing relevance in addressing contemporary global challenges. Ministers also reflected on the nature of the cooperation under BRICS during India's chairship this year under the theme Building for Resilience, Innovation, Cooperation and Sustainability, as well as the future direction of the grouping. During the session on reforms of global governance and multilateral systems, ministers underscored the need for a reformed multilateralism and that continued delay carries a high cost. Ministers were of the view that multilateral system does not reflect the current global realities and it is critical to respond to the needs and aspirations of countries in the global south. In the session on global and regional matters, members exchanged views and perspectives on the current geopolitical challenges, including their impact on the global economy. I would like to underline that Foreign Ministers meeting took place in the backdrop of productive engagement and a number of technical level meetings across thematic sectors of BRICS collaboration during our chairship. We have hosted so far as chair since January this year over 100 meetings, both in virtual and in-person mode. These meetings covered areas such as agriculture, climate, environment, energy, health, ICT, science and technology, labor, tourism, youth affairs, disaster risk reduction, industry and finance. all the BRICS members and partner countries are very appreciative and supportive of India's chairship priorities on the theme Building for Resilience, Innovation, Cooperation and Sustainability. Building on this deliberation in the last 2 days and based on these discussions, we have issued as chair statement and outcome document. It captures the common position of BRICS members on almost all the subjects under the 3 pillars of BRICS strategic partnership, to which I alluded to in my earlier part of the comments. The outcome documents cover common position on BRICS cooperation in areas such as global and regional matters, reform of the institution of global governance, including reforms of the UN Security Council, international financial institutions, fight against terrorism, trade, industry, finance, artificial intelligence, energy security, climate, biodiversity, and sustainability, health, and enhancing agriculture productivity and ensuring global food security and nutrition, supply chain resilience, disaster risk reduction, and of course, people-to-people exchanges, which is also a very key priority for our chairship. As you are all aware, the world today is navigating a period of unprecedented geopolitical and economic uncertainty, ongoing conflicts, economic volatility, climate-related risks, advancement in technology and associated disruption, supply chain challenges and disruptions are reshaping the global landscape. All these matters are also interlinked and have consequences for BRICS members, and I would say also for countries in the global south. There is a common view that BRICS must work purposefully in seeking common grounds for achieving practical, actionable, inclusive and development-oriented solutions through sustained engagement. I'm sure all of you have seen the statement made by Honorable EAM in the 3 plenary session, so I would not like to go into the detail of what we have said in this meeting, in these sessions. With these words, Vasu, I would be happy to respond to any question that my colleagues from media may have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request all of you to raise your hands and introduce yourself and your outlet for the record for asking a question. We'll start with Siddhant.
I think, sir, we all have one common question, the fact that there was no joint statement and UAE and Iran have been publicly sparring over it. So what's India's position on that?
Reza, at the back.
Related question, Reza from Hindustan Times. There was a press conference by the Iranian foreign minister a little while ago, and he gave the impression that the UAE was the only country that held up consensus on a joint statement. I was wondering if we could have some more light on that, and whether India is hopeful of being able to reach consensus on this before the summit.
Manish?
So Manish Chand, India Rights Network. We heard of very strong, exchange of, views, rhetoric between the foreign ministers of Iran and UAE. Now, I also want to know what was the position of the other BRICS members, like new members especially. Say, for example, Egypt, Ethiopia. And he just spoke about the US only country holding up consensus. Is that true? Or there were dissenting notes within that overall? And what is India's strategy to navigate these differences going forward? Thank you.
Ayushi?
So this is Ayushi Iqbal from ANI. So what is India's response to expectations from Iran that New Delhi take a more proactive diplomatic role in this de-escalation efforts? Thank you.
So, yes.
Well, thank you very much for these questions. I think on the first question about the result of this meeting, as I mentioned to you, we have an outcome document which we have posted online, which has 63 paragraphs. And if you look at that paragraph, as chair, it is our responsibility to make sure that we facilitate dialogue and discussion among all the members on all issues that are before BRICS at this stage. And I'm happy to share that almost in all matters that we are discussing under the 3 verticals of BRICS strategic partnership, political and security, economic and finance, cultural and P2P relations, we could find common grounds among all members. So the fact that we have a good outcome document with those understandings across thematic sectors on issues of global governance, on agriculture, health, UNSC, terrorism. So I would say that, that we have had a very productive week for BRICS through BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting and the exchanges that took place in the last 2 days. And the outcome document, as I mentioned earlier, reflects the common position of members almost on all subjects. And that is very positive to us. Now, I'm sure some of you would have already read this outcome document, from the reform of global economic governance to the condemnation of terrorism in all its form, from combating climate change, pandemics, and disaster to recognizing the human-centric approach to artificial intelligence, from promoting deeper engagement among startups and SMEs to enhancing cooperation on digital public infrastructure for economic growth. All in all, I would say BRICS foreign ministers articulated their support for the practical cooperation in various domains across 3 pillars of peace and security, economic and finance, cultural and people-to-people exchanges. So I would say that I would request everyone to study this document very carefully, and I feel that it provides us a very good sort of basis for our preparation for the summit that is going to happen in the second half of this year. I would like to also say that there are more than 20 thematic ministerial tracks, from agriculture to health to trade to finance to labor and employment, culture, and all these ministerial meetings will start happening in the coming days and weeks. And the result of all these meetings will feed into the summit preparations. So the fact that we have an outcome document with common views of BRIC members on almost all issues, I think is, in my view, a very positive outcome of this meeting. And we would be engaging with all the BRIC members and partner countries going forward, build consensus wherever we can. And I'm very confident that we would have good engagement and consultations in the run-up to summit in the second half of this year. On the issue of the situation in the West Asia, to which Manish ji mentioned, I would say that that there were frank and candid sharing of assessments and national positions by members, by all members, BRIC members. It is a fact that there were differing views among some members as regard the situation in West Asia. BRICS members, as I mentioned earlier, shared their respective national positions and shared a range of perspectives on this matter. Views articulated by them also included the need for an early resolution of the current crisis, the value of dialogue and diplomacy, respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, upholding international law, the importance of safe and unimpeded flow of maritime commerce through international waterways, and the protection of civilian infrastructure and civilian lives. There was also a discussion by members, since you asked me the perspective of other members, there was a discussion, good discussion, I would say, on the consequences of the situation on global economy, and this was stressed by several members in the discussion. So, as I mentioned, as chairs, our responsibility is to facilitate dialogue and discussion among members, build consensus wherever we can, and we manage to build consensus almost on all issues. And that is why we have an outcome document which we have transparently shared with all of you. And we will continue to, as I said, as chair, continue to engage through Sherpa channel with other countries, and continue to engage and find common grounds. I think Ayushi had asked a question which is not really BRICS related, but something different. So I think I'll defer that question for the time being. Thank you.
I would request all of you to restrict your questions to the BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting, given the context of this press briefing. Sudhi at the back.
Thank you. Sir, Sudhi Ranjan from Bloomberg, sir, here. Sir, generally wanted an understanding. We see 2 dissent notes, one on Bab el Mandeb and one also on Palestine. If you could give us an understanding which are the countries which had a problem with this and what exactly was their position.
Sridhar?
So, talking about these two paragraphs Shruti just spoke about, why would anyone oppose navigation through Bab el Mandab, and also on the Palestinian issue? One would presume that all of them are on the same page, and also the fact that India could not evolve a consensus on all issues. Does it make it very difficult for a complete consensus for the leaders summit? And just one final thing, if I could just sneak it in, right after UAE was a participant and the PM just went to the UAE. So are we to presume that we have sort of reconciled to the fact that we have to throw in our lot with one one part of the divide and so on? Thanks.
Kallol?
Sir, Kallol from The Hindu. Sir, considering that the language on Palestine in the BRICS chair statement and the outcome document is very clear. It calls for the creation of the Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. Considering the fact that the Prime Minister of India visited Israel just 2.5 months ago, and considering the close relation that we have with Israel, is this indicative of a shift in India's policy towards the region, or is it somehow rooted in some sort of historical continuity? Because we have not seen that sort of categorical statement on the creation of the Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital in quite some time from the government of India.
Keshav?
Thank you, Secretary. Keshav Padmanabhan from The Print. Just on paragraph 26, which is where you have the dissent on Palestine, was the issue with regards to supporting the Palestinian Authority for their reforms? Or was it rather on the occupation of Gaza Strip and that's an inalienable right to Palestine? Which part of that paragraph was a problem? And if I may, paragraph 42 talks about the multilateral trading system and issues with tariffs based on climate change initiatives, which, to the best of my knowledge, refers to CBAM and such measures, as well as unilateral tariffs. So can you give us a sense of what was the discussion on this, and whether the BRICS members had any sense of how to collectively respond to such measures that have been, taken in the recent past by certain organizations and countries?
Well, thank you very much. I think I'll start with the last question, perhaps, about the discussion and references to economic matters, particularly the unilateral measures or positions or regulation that country may have related to trade or trade-related aspect. You mentioned climate in this case. So Minister did really exchange views on global economic outlook, including concerns regarding unilateral measures and their disproportionate impact on developing countries. Now, I would like to also mention here that this discussion was guided by BRICS' long-standing commitment, BRIC as a grouping, to a rule-based, non-discriminatory, transparent and inclusive multilateral trading system with WTO at its core. So to answer your question, yes, there was a discussion on such measures, and there are 2 or 3 paragraphs actually regarding this matter. As chair of the BRICS currently, our focus would remain going forward in building collaboration, cooperation, strengthening supply chain resilience, and also supporting the reform of the multilateral trading system. There's also a discussion on what happened in the recently concluded WTO Ministerial Conference in Cameroon and the reform of WTO and how all of us can work together to pursue the interest of countries in the global south. There were questions about the fact that since we have no full consensus, I would say, on one aspect of the BRICS collaboration, which is para 22 here, the situation in the Middle East, how will it impact the summit preparation? As I mentioned earlier, we had to see the outcome document in totality. The fact that we have common views of BRICS members on almost all the matters that we are discussing under the three verticals: political and security, economic and trade, and finance, cultural and people-to-people relations. To my mind and to our mind as chair, is very, very positive. And it, as I said earlier, it provides us a very good basis actually to pursue discussion and dialogue through various channels of communication we have under BRICS. We do meet as BRICS Sherpa virtually also regularly, apart from having in-person meeting. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have a number of ministerial tracks, and many ministerial tracks are having meetings of working group. For example, health working group has 9, health ministerial track has 9 working groups ranging on different topics of interest to BRIC members. And I'm very confident that through discussions in the next few weeks and months in the run-up to summit, they will result into concrete deliverables and outcomes. And all this will come into play in terms of the preparations for the Leaders Summit in the second half of this year. And I'm very, very optimistic and confident that we will, through our dialogue and discussion, we will be able to build consensus on all these aspects for the summit. Finally, there were questions about 2 paragraphs in the declaration, in the outcome document, regarding some regional matters. As I mentioned earlier to you, as chair, it is our responsibility to make sure that we reflect the views of members in a very transparent and objective manner as possible. And we have done that in the outcome document. And if you look at these paragraphs, these 2 paragraphs which you mentioned, these paragraphs are specific to a region, and you know what region I'm talking about, in which one of the members from the region had a differing perspective on few elements. And it is our duty to make sure that we respect that view and hence this footnote. But going forward, as I said, we will continue to engage on these matters and make sure that we can find common grounds on these 1 and 1.5 issues that we have remaining in the outcome document. Finally, you are very right that we do have paragraphs regarding Palestine. I think BRICS has had a very coherent and clear view on matters relating to Palestine. If you look at the previous declaration, Rio Declaration, also we had a common view, and I'm happy that members and ministers could discuss these matters again in a very candid manner and could articulate that common view again. So I don't see this as a departure, perhaps, to my mind, but as a reflection of BRICS countries making sure that they have a view and they are willing to express that view collectively. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we come to an end of the briefing. I would request you all to stay connected with the MEA and follow the progress of the Prime Minister's visit to Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, and Italy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, that was a specific briefing by the Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs for Economic Relations, Sudhakar Dalela. He was taking questions specific only to the BRICS Foreign Ministers meeting and the fact that there is no joint declaration, joint statement. He clarified that there are many meeting points and that the summit was by and large successful. That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Thanks very much for watching. Namaskar.
Welcome to Rajasthan, the celebration of India.